On this day, more than any other, we Christians open our ears to hear the truth. The truth about violence, the truth about affliction, the truth about suffering, the truth about sin, the truth that God chooses to be breakable, just as we human beings are breakable, made of flesh and blood and bone in a world ever more efficient in the art of destruction. It is Good Friday, and no matter how many shining Easter mornings you've witnessed, today you allow yourselves to be drawn once more to the place of the skull, to the ultimate darkness called Golgotha, so that you may gaze upon the obscene and outrageous truth of our faith, a crucified God. It seems like only yesterday that we assembled here for Christmas Eve to experience the sweet mystery of the Incarnation. How silently the wondrous gift is given. No ear may hear his coming, yet in this world of sin, where meek souls will receive him still, the dear Christ enters in. That gentle, humble mystery of the Incarnation is today twisted into a kind of brutal and unfathomable paradox. What was made whole at Christmas is now torn open, torn apart. And it's not just the palms of Jesus' hands and feet, it's not just his side, pierced by the spear of an impatient soldier, but a tearing apart of God's very self. The crucifixion is a horrifying fracture, the separation not only of God from humanity, but of God, the loving parent, from God's beloved child. My God, why have you forsaken me and are so far from the cry and my words of my distress? The psalmist's ragged lament burns in our 21st century guts and in our throats when we are poured out like water and when our hearts are melting wax. Our God is a crucified God. And God's power is invisible on the cross. So if we desire communion on this day, then we must become more than mere observers. We must enter in. Because it is right here at the turbulent and breaking apart place called the skull that we meet the dark mystery of God's dying. A mystery that is the heart of our faith and the key to transformation. And God knows we are not empty-handed on our climb to the cross. You and I bring with us all our dread and doubt and discomfort. We journey by night. We cannot see our way. We hope that the light of Christ will soon shine into the pitch black and guide us, but right now we're unsure and our minds begin to spin with images of other, more familiar Golgothas, the skull places of our day and our age. It's a dirty secret. We Christians are loath to admit that as much as we pray for God's loving presence in our pain, more often than not, when we are gripped by grief and the deep shadow of evil and death, what we feel is a keen sense of God's abandonment. In one short year between Good Friday last year and Good Friday today, we all have witnessed these fresh atrocities in our world and in our nation. Corruption and gleeful cruelty, innocent lives recklessly destroyed, and a dehumanizing coarseness and cynicism that numbs our imagination and blinds us to beauty. And we hear the word unprecedented over and over these days. But that word laughs us to scorn For when it comes to human ruthlessness and greed, there is nothing new under the sun. We have been here before. My God, why have you forsaken us? And in this dark noonday of Good Friday, we wait for an answer. And maybe wonder, an answer from whom? Is this God we pray to some distant Teflon being of unchangeable perfection, incapable of feeling a spectator, undiminished and unaffected by the pain of this created world? Or is this God of ours involved, invested, immanent in creation, whose divine heart breaks and bleeds not only at the sight of Christ's agonies and afflictions, but also yours and mine? Martyred theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote these words from a Nazi jail cell: "Only a suffering God can help." Our theology of the cross claims a suffering God in solidarity with the forsaken, which means that when Jesus dies in pain and humiliation on Good Friday, it is God, the grief-stricken parent, howling over his lifeless body. Were you there? We sing on this black day. Were you there? Did you stay till the bitter end? Will you stay beyond the bitter end? Jesus' disciples can't do it. They're frightened and they're forlorn and they run and they hide. And we are asked to stay, to bind ourselves to a suffering God by drawing close in solidarity and in protest to the suffering of our world. And we do this in so many ways as individuals. Some of you make bold public witness, demanding justice at great personal risk. Others of you reach out quietly in private encounters that draw little attention but mean so much. And now, as a community on Good Friday, we bind ourselves once more to our suffering God through worship. As told in the letter to the Hebrews, we enter the sanctuary through the new and living way Jesus opens for us by his blood and through his flesh. First, we will stand and take Jesus' place to pray humbly and fervently for just and righteous leaders in our nation and our church, for comfort and solace for people in pain, for all creation and all who have died, for those who feel forsaken, and in loving compassion for all. And then we join in our ritual veneration of the cross. First to behold it, and then to meet it with our whole selves. We come to this skull place where the crucified shape of our own lives and our own loves press against the pattern Jesus made. And maybe we hear that hymn, how silently the wondrous gift is given. So today, approach the mystery of the crucified God. Reach out with your hands, with your lips, and let your warm and living flesh touch the cross, this symbol of God's costly promise that the darkness of this day will be changed to light. Your ears have heard the truth of Good Friday. Now, in this darkest of dark days, enter in